Occasional check-ins with Rob.
Hey everybody, welcome to another Occasional Check-In with Rob. Nick here, sitting in my car again on a very windy day, so excuse the weird audio where I'm super loud, Rob's a little quiet, but me and Rob were just chatting about a tweet that Gary Ruskin had made. Just a little background, Rob, who is Gary Ruskin?
Well, Gary Ruskin is the founder of U.S. Right to Know. So he is a anti-GMO activist. He's a pro-organic activist. He is an anti-modern agricultural science activist and throws dirt in the face of modern farming practices kind of wherever he can.
Okay, let's stop it there before it gets personal.
Yeah.
But so that's Gary Ruskin in a nutshell. And he made an interesting tweet the other day that I hopped on pretty quick there. But you know I guess the overall point of his tweet was, he says if we can't trust this chemical, what about all the other chemicals? And he's referring to glyphosate, right? And then I made the tweet pretty quickly that said, and there it is, right? There's your whole. He just showed his whole hand, right? It's if we take out glyphosate, then any other chemical, being that glyphosate is like the vinegar of farming, it's very benign, but very effective. If you take it off the table, then anything else is open for discussion, right?
Yeah, I think that's the concern. And to be clear, to bring the audience up to speed, you kind of have to be under a rock to not know that there's some major cases with rulings going against Bayer/Monsanto on the safety of Roundup, in particular as it pertains to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. However, let me be clear on this. The only organization that's ever said that Roundup is a probable carcinogen is the IARC. And the IARC's ruling flies in the face of every other health ruling around the world with respect to the safety of glyphosate.
Well, and just logic and reason. Like, I'm just going to show two graphs right now. Here's this graph showing the incidence rate of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and then here's the graph showing the incidence rate of the use of glyphosate. You see very little correlation there. In fact, if you actually map it out real good, there's actually a negative correlation. So you could say that glyphosate, cures cancer. But anyways, I digress.
Well, the point is that they've chosen California as the jurisdiction because, again, Californian tort lawyers have the upper hand. Juries don't have to rule based on science. They really can rule on emotion, which is what you're seeing today. Sooner or later, that'll go up to higher levels of court for further review. However, the important point with the Gary Ruskin tweet is that if you take the safest herbicide we have on the marketplace today, which is glyphosate, and you attack glyphosate with tort lawyers, and you start granting billions of dollars in lawsuit claims against the company manufacturing glyphosate, and glyphosate is one of the safest products we use in agriculture, without doubt. Then what happens to the rest of them? What happens to all of the other chemistries that we're using that have got registration, that got instructions as to how we use them, minimal residual levels that are acceptable? What happens to all of the other chemistries behind glyphosate that have a higher level of toxicity than glyphosate? Now, to put this in perspective, glyphosate and that ruling says that glyphosate's probability to cause cancer through IARC is the same as hot water would likely cause cancer, or hairdressing would likely cause cancer. So it's
eating
a hazard.
Red meat.
What?
Eating red meat.
Eating red meat could likely cause cancer. It's a hazard assessment. It's like saying there's a body of water there, and that body of water could kill you. There's a hazard there, but the risk is associated with your exposure to the body of water. In other words, do you go in the body of water or not? That's a difference between a hazard versus a risk assessment, and IARC just rules on hazard.
Well, and this is something we see over and over and over again with, pick a study that has a negative outcome on glyphosate, and typically the levels at which they're exposing, say, mice or rats to are completely out of context to what a human would ever be exposed to in the real world, right? There was a study I'll put up here where they were just injecting glyphosate right into the chest cavities of rats. That really mimics a real world exposure, right? It's a little bit crazy.
Those in vitro studies really don't hold a candle to Enviro studies. And the largest Enviro study was ignored by IARC, which is a 50,000 cohort study. And if you know anything about studies, a cohort study is a very, very important detailed study. And 50,000 farmers and custom applicators were followed as they utilized glyphosate over long term. And there was no relationship between cancer and the cohort study of 50,000 farmers and custom applicators. So we'll ignore that study. And that's what our IARC did. We'll just ignore that study, but we'll go with a hazard-based study. Again, this has all been predicated on the backs of tort lawyers who are smelling blood in the water.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like a broken record talking about glyphosate? I know I do all the time, right? Because it's such an important issue. But I mean, it just you can explain it to people until you're blue in the face, and it's always big bad Bayer versus a guy with cancer, and it's an emotional appeal that is hard to win.
Well, nobody would be so crass as to not have sympathy for somebody with cancer. I mean, that goes without saying. However, when you take such a valuable product globally and you murder that molecule, is what's going on right now, then it really has a profound impact on agriculture and our ability to produce food going into the future. It's a big deal. And what people don't realize is glyphosate has been off patent for a long, long time. And Monsanto and Bayer have just been named because they're the ones that have a wallet. But there are countless number of Chinese manufacturers, Indian manufacturers, and manufacturers from all over the world producing glyphosate. But you don't hear anything about those people. You just hear about the lawsuit with Monsanto/Bayer because they're the ones, as mentioned, with the pocketbook. So that's what's going on.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, interesting thing to follow, and a story that at No Ideas Media we will be keeping you up to date on, as we always do. Thanks for another occasional check-in with Rob there, Dad.
You're welcome, Nick.
All right, see you later.
Occasional check-ins with Rob.